Good afternoon. First off, I want to thank you for including in Raise Bill 6672, Section 8, which relates to a transfer of a portion of land from the state of Connecticut to the town of Southbury. The purpose for this proposed transfer is to provide land to the Southbury Senior Housing Agency that is looking for land upon which to create new senior housing for the town of Southbury. This transfer would be very important to the town of Southbury because, as you may know, Southbury has a higher concentration of senior citizens than any other town in the state of Connecticut, that is, people over the age of 65. And there is relatively little low-cost and almost no subsidized housing in the town of Southbury other than the senior housing that has already been built. We have a complex of around 100 units called Grace Meadows. And I believe that this is about the only place that seniors of limited income can look forward to going to in the town of Southbury. And we have a very extensive waiting list, so they're looking for a place to build additional land, additional housing. In order to apply for the federal grants and loans and that sort of thing that would be necessary to facilitate the creation of this housing, they need to identify a place to have the housing be built. And the place that they've come up with that seems to make the most sense for the community is this little parcel of land on Southbury Training School's grounds. It is not part of the farmland, which is being discussed in the Environment Committee in an effort to preserve that farmland. This is a portion of land that has never been used for farming and was used at one time or another for purposes of the Department of Developmental Disabilities at Southbury Training School. It includes all or a part, I'm not quite sure, of what is known as Personnel Village, for anyone who might be familiar with the training school, which used to be a classic 1950s type suburban development of small houses on a cul-de-sac type of road that was used by the personnel who lived at Southbury Training School because they couldn't find housing readily accessible in those days, Southbury being an extremely small town. And it has been subsequently used for residents of Southbury Training School, the clients, and it is my understanding in speaking with the department that they have a plan to eventually stop using the Personnel Village altogether, and actually they're not too far away from reaching that goal, but they haven't quite reached it as yet. So one of the things that I was hoping was that if this section goes forward with the bill, that there be a recognition that availability isn't quite there yet, and that some sort of provision be included that would say that if the commissioner gets to the point where they've decided they no longer need the land, or a certain date somewhat into the future, perhaps October 1, 2015 or something, or 2014, be included in the legislation saying that the transfer will occur at that point because they are not ready to relinquish it at the moment. But if we don't identify a piece of land that will eventually be the site for this housing, then nothing can go forward in terms of getting started on trying to acquire the monies from the federal government to make this all start to come together. So I hope that you can move forward with it. There was something else that was pointed out to me, and that is in the original language that I submitted to the committee requesting, and I had a proposed bill requesting this to be done, it was always explained that the plan was to have the town of Southbury lease this land to the senior housing organization, which is a not-for-profit that has been doing the senior housing in the town of Southbury. One of the provisions that's contained in the language in the bill before you says that it can't be leased by the town of Southbury or else a reverter clause kicks in and the land would go back to the state. And I'm not quite sure exactly how we get around that, but obviously the plan that they originally had wouldn't be able to work with that clause in there. I don't know if that language can be modified or if there's some thing that they can do, an arrangement between the town and the senior housing folks that will enable them to be able to use the land, because they're the way that Southbury does senior housing, low-income senior housing, is through this not-for-profit organization. And again, thank you, and hopefully you will move forward with this legislation and this section contained therein.